do. Every religious, mystical, and philosophical sect has had exactly the same difficulty from the beginning of time. Where it is the person who really believes that the esoteric truths of life are some kind of a secret, and that it is possible to find the key, buy it, steal it, beg it, borrow it, do some way to get it, and that by means of this key we can suddenly, to borrow a phrase from alchemy, unlock the shut door of the palace of the king. That there is some way, a way in which spirituality can be wonderfully augmented within the individual by some methodology. And of course, years ago, we had a deluge of methodologies. Today they are not so frequent, but there are some pretty intensive ones still left. And people are sometimes wrong in their judgment of these groups. They misunderstand teaching that is intended well, or perhaps the teaching itself is not well stated or well integrated and does not protect the student adequately. So we have a great many people who are in trouble simply because they are trying to be better than they know how to be, and that can get you into complications. This is one of the points that I have emphasized for very, very many years, that the average person cannot handle the development or release of so-called metaphysical values or factors or forces within his own nature. He does not know when a development is legitimate and when it is not. And he does not know where some type of mystical experience begins and some type of wishful thinking leaves off. He just does not know. He cannot really tell the difference between a vision and a dream. He has no way of knowing the difference. For that matter, he doesn't know the difference between a dream and a nightmare. There are many strange and difficult situations that the person cannot cope with. The moment his mind is separated from the commonplace, the landmarks about which he is reasonably certain, he wanders into a mist and mystery which he cannot evaluate. He really doesn't know what he's doing. Now, there should not be this kind of situation. People should not be encouraged or permitted to get into these difficulties. But we can't do very much about it now because the trouble started a long time ago. Back in the gradual collapse of classical culture, the various esoteric arts and sciences of the temples were profaned. These secrets were brought out, initiates broke their obligations, or some even under torture confessed or described things which they should not have discussed. In any event, little by little, what used to be a very carefully guarded way of life became available through the dishonesty or the treachery of members or novices in these subjects, and the old mystery sciences came into the common possession of mankind. Of course, some good was accomplished. It wasn't all bad. For from the temple we got mathematics and astronomy and chemistry and music, geography and history. Practically every science we know was originally part of this secret wisdom. Those sciences which we could turn and apply to the common advancements of mankind have helped, but because they were advanced without the obligations of the ancient temple, most of the secular branches of knowledge have become utterly corrupted, and all knowledge is now used selfishly. Whereas in the older times, the obligations were such that the possessors of knowledge were bound to right use. This no longer exists as a general policy, unless the person by his own high morality makes a voluntary obligation. But some of the other more secret and mysterious arts were brought out of their ancient symbolisms and from the early sanctuaries of the mysteries. Pandora's box was opened. All types of psychic and magical phenomena came to be a little better known and a little better understood than was wise. But the great over-science of which it was a part, the great dedications to the temple which once protected it, the long periods of purification and preparation which once led to the revelation of it, all of these guards and protectors were lost. And the individual was in much the same condition that we were when we discovered nuclear fission and had in our hands the greatest power that man has ever materially possessed, and practically no ethical structure to direct the use of it. This was a situation that was rather serious. And as far as the private citizen is concerned, the esoteric arts are just as dangerous as nuclear fission. He can get himself into a private dilemma just as easily as the world could be forced into a dilemma by an atomic war.